and I've dealt with a lot of broken projects lately, so that sucks. I don't want this to break. It ended up turning into 3 different side tables that I created. Oh my god, this was stupid. Let's see. Yes! Some good news.
I'm so happy.
Hi, and welcome to the first time I am working on a project in this brand new studio space that I created. It feels weird to be done with this project. If you've been following me throughout this journey, you've been noticing, but I've been renovating this old ice fishing house into a new studio space for me. I primarily work in ceramics, so I am just mainly doing projects with that. For the very first project in the studio space, I'm actually going to be finishing the very first project that I ever posted on YouTube for ceramics. So I've been working in ceramics for about 4 to 5 years heavily now. I have really big months where I'm working on tons of projects, and then a couple months where I do nothing. So I feel like that's a life of an artist. On this channel I used to just post things that were about my life, like traveling or music or other things. And then at one point I realized that I might as well make a video about my ceramics, because I had been doing that for a few years at that point. So while I was making some new ceramic projects, I just started picking up my camera and taking videos throughout the process, and then doing a voiceover later of what my project was. It ended up turning into 3 different side tables that I created, which, if you're someone who works with ceramics, you know that this is just kind of a random and absurd thing to make out of ceramics. All of these projects just sat in the middle of being finished. I've put them through the kiln once, and they're in their bisqueware stage, so they've been fired once. I just need to put a nice glaze on these now, so they're finished. I think it's taken me so long to do this because a lot of my projects lately have been breaking in my kiln. I've not been as cautious of a ceramicist as I probably should have been, and I'm still working on trying to make sure that everything goes well, but you can never plan for things to go wrong. You just gotta deal with the consequences if they do. And I've dealt with a lot of broken projects lately, so that sucks. I don't want this to break. Anyway, I'm gonna do probably like a voiceover or something while I just show you the process of how I get these prepared to glaze and fire, and then I can use them. Alright, I'm gonna start with this one. And the first step is just gonna be wiping this down to make sure that there's no remaining dust on here so that the glaze sticks properly. I thought I said I was doing a voiceover.
In January 2023, I was building up courage to post one of my first ceramics videos on YouTube. Just a few months earlier, I was broken up with. I remember not feeling motivated to do anything. I couldn't figure out how to get myself back into the studio after I got broken up with. It was a really interesting experience that I think I learned a lot from. I remember being really nervous to post anything about art because I was just kind of scared to put myself out there, which fully makes sense. The internet is insane sometimes. This was the first project after a few months of processing things that I could finally figure out what I want to do. When I finally got back into the studio after a few months, I decided on making these ceramic tables. I was hoping to not take as much time to make these tables, but because I had just been broken up with, there was way too many things on my mind, and when I would create in the studio, usually I can zone out and focus on just like my creation. While filming this video, I was showing the process of how I was building 3 different ceramic tables that I was going to be using what I thought a lot earlier at the time, but at least now I'm getting around to finishing this project a few years later. These were coil-built tables, and I made these tables over the span of a few different weeks. Then I ended up firing them and getting them to the bisqueware stage, and then I didn't end up glazing them and finishing the projects because I got scared that they were going to blow up in the kiln. As it gets to winter, I have a bit of a hard time controlling the kiln temperatures, and my projects do tend to start breaking a bit more often. So these tables kind of took on a new life in the creation, where I called them my heartache tables. I didn't end up talking about this really with anyone, just kind of created this with my project as they went on, and I'll give a brief explanation on what I mean by that.
Oh my god, this was stupid.
I ended up making tables that reflected my emotions that I was going through, but still trying to keep a tasteful look to the tables. In one way, I do think that if you just look at these things from an outsider perspective, they almost look accidentally phallic. I don't know. I do think there's kind of, unfortunately, some weird shapes happening here, and if you know what I mean, you know. And anyway, that's the last I'll say on that. But getting back to the point, I made 3 different tables that were expressing emotions. One of the first feelings that I couldn't stop feeling after my breakup was feeling very exposed and feeling that pit in my stomach, like a hole in, unfortunately, my heart. But that feels so sad and cheesy to say, but breakups are hard. Everyone gets it. So the first table kind of expressed that with the exposed underside to the table, and then also the hole that is in the table as well. This is one of my favorite projects that I've ever created, I think, and I am so happy to finally have this project finished. The second feeling that I was going through was feeling like my world was flipping upside down on myself and not having control really in that. So I wanted to make a side table that was dual-sided, that you could flip. These tables all had a similar theme of having some type of hole in the table. So for me, I wanted to express that the pit, or that feeling that I had in my stomach, was slowly going away with time. On the second table, I also tried to show the feeling of kind of that pit in your stomach. So the hole is no longer going through the table, but you can still see where the hole was existing at one point. But it ended up looking a little bit weird, I will say. So it doesn't always have to be facing out. And then on the third table, I did have a little area that still has that same consistent hole that's been on each table. It's just much, much smaller. So this is the third table in the theme. And then this table is a bit more traditional in the way that it has a flat top. I wanted to symbolize on this table making new connections and new ways that we can make our life go, and seeing new outcomes even after a shitty thing like a breakup.
It's been a few days since I've been in the studio now. I have left whatever projects I last fired in the kiln still in the kiln, so today's objective is to go check on those first. Personally, I'm a bit nervous that they didn't turn out, and I don't know what I'm going to do if they're broken or messed up in my kiln. It's going to be a really sad day. After I figure out what to do with that, I can fire the kiln one more time because I still have one more project that didn't fit. And then in a couple more days, I'll finally be able to show you guys how these projects officially turned out. I'm just gonna be so sad if the projects fail at this last stage. It's always the worst when you make it this far. Extremely nervous about what these are gonna look like, but let's see. Also, I should see if it fired. Yes, yes. And with an hour to spare, perfect. Okay, let's see. So far, I think it looks good. Okay, first getting out of the way, I fired a plant pot because I had a little extra room. Looks really nice. Happy about that. One good thing. Take the shelf out. I fired a friend's project of mine too. So this is one of my tables that's a dual-sided table. So it's supposed to be able to flip both ways. The only problem with that is ceramics, obviously, you can't have any glaze on the bottom that's on the shelf. So what I tried to do is put these little things underneath the project, probably about 10 of them, so that they could hopefully keep the weight of the project. And I'm just hoping that the project didn't sink into those. Let me show you the project before I take it out. Are we ready to see? Okay. I think it worked. Yes. And only one kind of stuck. The glaze turned out so well. I'm so happy with this. Yes. Some good news. Now that I know that this project worked out, I can get my next table in here so that I can show you guys how these turned out. Alright, it's the next day. I got a haircut. If you noticed that I look a little different, I'm not lying. So, let's just get to it and check. Still a little bit warm inside. It's like a perfect temperature, like your laundry when you take it out. Yes! It looks so nice glazed. I'm gonna bring this to my studio. Okay, my last firing, and like usual, I'm very nervous to open this up. This is my favorite. I say that a lot, so I don't know. This is one of my favorites for all the projects I've ever made in my entire life. So if this is broken, I'll be pretty devastated. Okay, let's see. Oh, so heavy. Looks like it survived. Wow. I'm so happy. All three tables are now finished and glazed, and they look beautiful. I think this is hilarious that it took me 2 years to finish these projects, but sometimes things just take a little bit of time. What I'm gonna do now is bring these tables and style them with some plants that I have. I think for now I'll just use them as little side tables for elevating plants off the ground. Maybe in time I'll have other uses for it, like side tables for beds, or I don't know, you really could do whatever you want with these.